everybody, and welcome back to Suits and Laterals, the podcast where we talk about the NFL, both on and off the field. I'm your host for the evening, Jeff Rich. I'm joined as usual. I took last week off, but I'm joined as usual by Chris Green in California. Chris, always a pleasure to talk about the NFL with you.
Yep, absolutely, Jeff. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really well. I watched a good slate of games this weekend. Maybe not the best slate of games because I did watch my hometown Cardinals play my native hometown Cleveland Browns, and it was about.
Did you feel conflicted?
I did not feel conflicted. There's definite rooting interest at where I was born. I wasn't rooting for the St. Louis Cardinals in 1985 when I started watching football, so I had a definite rooting interest, but I also had a definite expectation. I think we got to the result of that game in an indirect manner. I believe the final score was 34-20. I expected the Cardinals by double digits. I didn't expect the Browns to lead at the half, but I think that had more to do with the Cardinals than it did with the Browns.
Yeah, it was a interesting first half. I am right with you. I didn't expect the Browns to be up 21-10 at the half. They got some turnovers, and in all honesty, they really should not have lost that game. Considering, I think they had 5 turnovers. Did Arizona, if I remember right?
I believe it was 4, but in the end, the Browns had to finish drives. The Browns had to do certain things, and the Browns made their share of mistakes too. And I thought that what defined the game, despite everything that happened between the beginning and the end, what defined the game was the Cardinals' opening drive. The Browns defended everything really well, and the Cardinals just did what good teams do, and they made plays. Whether it was the J.J. Nelson, reaching out and making the left-handed grab on I believe it was third down play. Nicholas, beating the linebacker and getting open. Just everything that they did on that opening drive was indicative of what good teams do, even when plays are defended near perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that Arizona was missing at the end of last year was the offense. I mean, and it's hard not to when you lose your top 2 quarterbacks. So the fact that they've really come out guns a-blazing, so to speak, to use a Greg Hardy term this year, is that their offense is clicking on all cylinders. So with that defense, when that offense is playing well, the sky's the limit for that team.
Yeah, there were some interesting conversations on the local talk circuit here. It's funny, we were talking before the show about how much I listen to talk radio versus how much you get tired of the minutia. But it's interesting to hear about an out-of-market team, and you've got it with your Bay Area, with the Bay Area teams up there. They were talking about the player the Cardinals could least afford to lose. You take Carson Palmer out of the equation. I think that's the obvious answer. And some people said Patrick Peterson. I was thinking myself that it was Jared Valdir because and it's not just the Browns who don't get to anybody, but nobody's gotten to Carson Palmer, and I think that's what that's what keeps the Cardinals going, is keeping Carson Palmer upright.
Absolutely. I mean, he's not a spring chicken anymore, so the more they can do to keep him upright, the better they are off.
Well, he was the first overall pick in the 2003 NFL draft, 2002 Heisman winner. You and I were, again, talking before the show about the 2002 Miami Hurricane. And, that season, Ken Dorsey was a Heisman frontrunner. He ends up not winning the Heisman Trophy. It goes to Palmer, whose USC team lost a couple of games, but arguably were playing as well as anyone in the country at the end of that season. He's had kind of an up and down career. You look at the Cincinnati Bengals; they haven't won a playoff game in over 20 years. He was on his way to taking Cincinnati to good places when he had a devastating injury, which sidelined him for quite a while, and arguably ended his career even when he played for even when he came out of retirement to play for the Oakland Raiders. And he's just completely resurrected it, working with quarterback whisperer here in Arizona in Bruce Arians.
Absolutely. I mean, do we really want to count that little tenure he had in Oakland? I'm sure he just assumed forget it, and I think the best of us should too.
Well, it got him off the couch. Oakland had to play. I mean, he could still be. He could have played his last down of football with the Cincinnati Bengals, 5-6 years ago at this point, And Oakland overwhelmed Mike Brown with a trade. Cincinnati said, okay, we'll move him for that price. And, he goes and plays football again, decides that he's still got it. Comes to Arizona where they really haven't had anybody since Kurt Warner retired 4 or 5 years ago. And, Bruce Arians has a lot to do with it. Larry Fitzgerald has a lot to do with it. But, you look at the weapons that he's got. These weren't names that blew you away coming into the NFL. A lot of undrafted guys like J.J. Nelson, Jerron Brown, John Brown. Fitzgerald's always been that marquee guy, but they really haven't figured it out at the tight end position. But they're trying to salvage it with Jermaine Gresham, and I think this Troy Nicholas looks like a pretty good football player.
Yeah, but let's be honest. He engineered his way out of Cincinnati with that. He wasn't happy there. He wasn't happy with the money he was getting, and that's what got him to Oakland at the end of the day. He's not the only number one pick who's engineered his way out of town.
Well, Alex Smith, he gets outplayed. He loses his job a couple years ago as San Francisco is en route to a Super Bowl season. Hooks up with Andy Reid in Kansas City. Looks pretty decent. The Chiefs have had a rough go. I think they're on their way back up after playing the Lions certainly helps. They're going to have a bye week after playing in London last Sunday. But what are your thoughts on Alex Smith? I don't think that he's a clutch player, but I think he's definitely a serviceable quarterback, even if he is a little bit of a disappointment being a number one pick overall.
Yeah, he was the number one overall pick because he's a quarterback, and Urban Meyer and made him look good in Utah. So. Like you said, he's serviceable. He's nothing spectacular. I think, honestly, he probably peaked in his last season with the 49ers. And that's pretty much all I have to say about him. He's nothing spectacular. He's kind of I guess he's not paid like a stopgap quarterback, but that's kind of what he is to me.
How much stock do you put into the detriment that was all the turnover, with Mike Singletary and Mike Nolan before him there in San Francisco? How much stock do you put into 4 offensive coordinators in 4 years? He had some success under Norv Turner. He had some success under Greg Roman, too, in San Francisco. And I think that he's had a limited amount of success in Kansas City with what Andy Reid's doing there. But do you think that he's just a guy, that kind of suffers the syndrome that another number one overall pick suffered, and that's not being given a chance like Tim Couch did in Cleveland?
I think it's a little bit different. I think the talent that he had with him, and yes, the coaching situation obviously factored into it, but I do believe he had much better talent with him in San Francisco than Couch did in Cleveland. Couch was on an expansion team that had pretty much no talent on it for his whole tenure in Cleveland. Yes, they added a couple of players his last 2 years, but still, at the end of the day, they were severely lacking. The offensive line got him killed almost every week. Whereas Alex Smith, I think, had a decent offensive line. You could say he didn't have very good receivers in San Francisco for the most part, but I definitely think he had Frank Gore there, so he had a running game. So I don't blame that. And he had Vernon Davis too. So he did have some weapons, and I would say both of those players were better than anything Couch ever had.
All right, spoiler alert. We're going to talk about Vernon Davis a little later on with our other topic here, but we are talking about number one quarterbacks that are still active that were taken number one overall in their respective drafts. Let's touch a little bit on the other side of that Kansas City-Detroit game played in London last Sunday. Matthew Stafford, the Lions are 1-7. They were in the playoff. They were in the playoffs 10 months ago. What's happened with Matthew Stafford? Is it that Jim Caldwell is just too apathetic? He's arguably got one of the best weapons you could ask for as a quarterback in Calvin Johnson. But the question is that enough?
Well, Calvin Johnson looks pretty pedestrian this year for considering what you're used to seeing from him. And in all honesty, Stafford was horrible at the beginning of the year. So since he got benched, he's come back and played much better. But he's regressed. We're talking 2 years ago, he was right around 5,000 yards passing, and I think he was up around 40 touchdown passes. So did he peak then, or is it the changes to the coaching that since then that has hurt him? I think you can say it's a little bit of both. He definitely has weapons on offense, and he has some an offensive line. So I don't know what the answer is, whether it's the coaching that's the number one problem, because obviously they made some changes there. And, Jim Caldwell gets a lot of credit for Peyton Manning's success in Indianapolis, but let's be honest, Peyton Manning's made all of his coaches look good. So I don't know how much he really had to do with that.
Well, hey, Peyton Manning used to play for the Colts. That division is awful, and I think that everybody in the NFC East has to let out a sigh of relief that the AFC South exists, because I mean, you look at that division.
This looks like the AFC South or the NFC South of last year.
It really does, but that NFC East, the one quarter, you'd think that Robert Griffin III is the top quarterback taken overall in his respective draft. He was taken number 2 behind Andrew Luck in 2012, but you forget about Sam Bradford. Really the last, what was he, 2010 draft pick, the last quarterback to get paid before he ever played it down in the NFL. He's on his second team now. He's with the Philadelphia Eagles, who at 3-4 do find themselves in the hunt in the NFC East. What do you think of this change of scenery for Bradford so far? I mean, obviously Chip Kelly's system is going to get the commentary, whether it's praise or whether it's criticism for trying to bring that Oregon offense. And I think that it's pretty modified to adjust to the NFL, but hasn't worked to date. Those guys don't block very well. They don't do a lot of deception. The deception is after the snap, not before it. Is this a better system for Sam Bradford? Because Nick Foles seems like he's adjusting in St. Louis a lot better than Bradford is in Philadelphia.
Well, let's be honest. First off, he's now stayed upright in 7 games, which is 7 games more than he's played the last 2 years. So that, number one, that's a bonus for him. And whether it's the system, he's looked very inconsistent in Philadelphia. I mean, if you saw him in the preseason, he looked like he was going to come out and be the best quarterback in the league. And obviously, we've all seen how many other quarterbacks look awesome in preseason, then the lights turn on and they regress dramatically. But he's had good moments. He's had very bad moments this year. But some of that is probably 2 years worth of rust he's trying to shake off. So it's not only a new system, it's coming back from couple major knee injuries, and just new team, new everything. So, and he's probably got some pressure on him too, because he's trying to play for a new contract.
All right, we buried the lead pretty well. The motivation for this topic of conversation, was that we had 2 number ones go at it in Charlotte on Monday. Cam Newton certainly looked like the better player. There's a lot of narrative involved with Newton and Luck. They both could have been the number 1 overall pick in 2011. Newton comes out, Luck goes back to Stanford. The narrative this week seems to be that we've overhyped Andrew Luck because he's a better story. Son of the Oliver Luck who played in the NFL versus son of Cecil Newton, who tried to sell his son's services to Mississippi State when Newton was transferring out of junior college. And Newton had his problems at Florida. Luck seems to have been a model citizen and continues to be so, much like Newton is in Carolina. I don't feel this way because I have all the respect in the world for Cam Newton. In fact, I was critical of him in college. I was one of the people that called him Scam Newton. I think that I saw something where he held a costume party or a Batman party or something of that like for a Make-A-Wish kid, Make-A-Wish Foundation kid who wasn't going to make it to Halloween, and it just touched the heart. You really feel that Cam Newton is all about doing the right things. He's got $1 million smile. He carries that Carolina team. So I don't really see the fact that we're underrating Newton or even overrating Luck. Luck's had a rough season, but it's possible he's been playing hurt and without great coaching or a great supporting cast there in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, before this year, most people were thinking that Andrew Luck was pretty much going to be the next great quarterback in the NFL. They've been saying that pretty much since he was drafted, that he is like the best quarterback to come out since Peyton Manning came out. So, and he's been inconsistent at times, but overall he's carried those teams. And this year he has just not looked like the same player. I'll be honest, he looked horrific for the first, 3 quarters of Monday night's game. And then the last quarter, he actually looked like his old self. I mean, he drove him back, tied the game up, actually gave him a chance to win it at the end. But where was that at the first 3 quarters? Was this a matter of coaching? Is this a matter of he's playing hurt and he got shot up on the sidelines, or what the deal is? I mean, there's been speculation out there that he may be playing with broken ribs, and they're talking about, are the Colts not reporting this? Are they going to get in trouble, or what's going on? But so I don't know what to think. He looks like he's hurt. He has not been the same player we're all used to seeing. But in regards to Cam Newton, he's been very up and down in his career. He's had his really good moments, and then last year I would say was pretty much a lost season for him for the most part. And he's played very well this year. I'll be honest, I didn't think he looked very good for most of the game the other night either. But when you're playing in that kind of weather conditions, it's hard to tell too. I would still take Andrew Luck. I think Cam gives you more as far as the run game goes, but I like the passing of Luck overall better.
Well, the Colts took him number 1 overall, as I mentioned, a couple years ago. More than a couple years ago, they took a guy named Peyton Manning, number 1 overall. He played many years in Indianapolis, sat out a season with a neck injury, was released before the 2012 campaign when they went in a different direction with Luck. Manning did the free agent tour, lands with John Elway and John Fox, who's no longer there, in Denver. They've gone to the playoffs the last 3 seasons. They've gone deep in a couple of those playoffs, but it appears to be close to the end of the road for Peyton Manning, who does return to Indianapolis to take on Luck's Colts. Manning, does he still have it?
If you've watched him play this year, I would definitely say no. That could change. I mean, he did have probably his best game of the year, I would say, against Green Bay this past week, but he still didn't throw any touchdown passes. I mean, I know that's not the number 1 indicator for how good a quarterback is, but it's usually one of the indicators. And for Peyton Manning to not throw touchdown passes, that's just not Peyton Manning. I mean, he's got 400 plus touchdown passes in his career, and I think he's still in single digits this season, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Hey, number 1 overall that we're probably not going to go into detail on is Mike Vick, who is backing up Ben Roethlisberger, who's back on the field in Pittsburgh. Vick suffered an injury. They had to go with Landry Jones. I wouldn't consider Vick to be active. It's kind of interesting that he goes number 1 overall to the Falcons, and his career is basically over. And the guy that went in the 3rd round of that same draft, Drew Brees, to the San Diego Chargers, is still very much playing at a high level in the NFL. Hey, we went from, we discussed the elder Manning, but it'll be the younger Manning taking on the most recent number 1 overall pick in another battle of number 1 overalls, with the Giants taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Jameis Winston. I haven't gotten a lot of chances to see Winston play. I mostly catch him through highlights. Do you have any early takes on the reigning number 1 overall pick?
He's a typical rookie quarterback, in all honesty. He shows flashes of brilliance, and then he shows flashes of idiocy on the next play. So he's had several interceptions run back for touchdowns this year. So I think it's way too early to judge him yet. I mean, everybody's so into instant gratification these days with these quarterbacks, and it's just a completely different system than what a lot of them grew up in the past, since they've changed the rules as far as coaches interacting with players and how many practices they have during training camp. So it's much harder to develop quarterbacks in the NFL anymore. So we'll see what happens. But he's, like I said, he's had his ups and his downs, and he's definitely shown some moments of brilliance. So the big question is as he goes through this year and moving forward, is can he build upon those positive moments, or is he just going to be another flash in the pan number 1 draft pick? Well,
you brought up instant gratification, and the Tennessee Titans. The guy hasn't won a lot, but he's only had 5 starts from the guy that went right after Winston, Marcus Mariota. A lot of news out of Tennessee this week. Some rumors coming up that we should get into. But Ken Wisenhunt dismissed in his 2nd year in Tennessee. And it's kind of funny because I asked you just about every week when we did our post-game show a year ago, whether Wisenhunt was on the hot seat, and you always said, hey, it's only been a year. They're probably not going to dump him after 1 year, but they didn't give him a second full season. Peter King went ballistic about it on Twitter, saying, if you're gonna let this guy choose this quarterback and not give him a chance to see what he could do, more than 5 games, what are you doing there in Tennessee? What do you think of the decision there in Tennessee, and what direction do you see them going in?
I think it's ridiculous too. I mean, they weren't a very good team last year. They didn't have a lot of talent. They obviously felt that quarterback was a need, which is why they went and drafted Mariota this year. And I mean, yes, Mariota had a excellent coming out game this year, and then he's kind of been pedestrian for the most part since then. But he doesn't play defense either. I mean, they've given up 159 points and compared to 125 scored, so he can't stop them as well as get touchdown passes. And he's also been injured too. So I mean, I think it's way too early to get rid of a coach after that. But like you said, it's an instant gratification league, and they've got some ownership issues going on in Tennessee as well, which I'm sure is part of this whole thing. They're trying to make the team look as attractive as possible so they can sell it. So it's not real surprising, especially if Wisenhunt wasn't willing to change his philosophy or change coaches, which are some of the rumors that have been out there about why they let him go. He's just that he wasn't flexible enough.
He's not a good football coach. I mean, that's what it comes down to, Chris. I watched this guy for a couple of years. He took Arizona to the Super Bowl. Nobody's denying that he did, but he also had Kurt Warner and Todd Haley and a number of other things, going in his direction. Mainly a pivot in the organization, going from Bill Bidwell to his son Michael, and getting past Rod Graves and everything else. And there's no question the Cardinals have gotten better since Ken Wisenhunt left this organization. He did enough in San Diego to for the Tennessee to take a flyer on him, but Tennessee's tired of losing. For him, they had another guy. What was it? Was it Malarkey who's going to be the interim coach now, or was it someone else? But I mean, they really haven't had any stability in that head coaching position since Jeff Fisher. Hey, Chris, the trade deadline was on Tuesday. Not a lot of activity, but what went on there?
So, well, we had one really big trade out there. That was Vernon Davis getting shipped from the 49ers, who've pretty much given up on this season, to the Broncos. The 49ers also benched Colin Kaepernick after this trade. But I think the bigger deal about this, because, I mean, we've talked about San Francisco. I said from the beginning I thought they were going to regress this year. They obviously have, and I mean, they're another team. You got to wonder if they're going to have a new head coach next year, even though he was just brought on. But moving on to the benefit of this trade, I mean, Vernon Davis goes from the cellar with the 49ers over to the Broncos, which are undefeated. So this is a big move for him. He's not the same Vernon Davis that he was 3 years ago when the 49ers were in the Super Bowl, but he is still a solid tight end. And with Peyton Manning throwing to him, I think he could be in for some big things in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, Vernon Davis, he is what he is at this point in his career. I don't think he's anything special at tight end. I could probably name off 10 guys I'd rather have at the position, but those guys probably weren't available, for the services of a 6th-round pick, which is basically all Denver gave to San Francisco in that deal. Denver supposedly wasn't done dealing. Looked like they were trying to make a deal with, back in our old neck of the woods.
Yeah, there was all these rumors about them trying to get Joe Thomas, and I don't buy it. I mean, yes, they may have been trying to get them, but in all honesty, unless the Browns were completely overwhelmed for Joe Thomas, I just don't see the trade. I mean, you and I have talked about this before. What would it take to get rid of Joe Thomas? And, I mean, would it be a good decision? And, I've kind of said that with their track record of drafting, I don't know that it's a good decision to get rid of your future Hall of Fame left tackle.
Oh, they would have had to get players. They would have had to get players in addition to draft picks. I don't think they would have, though. I mean, yes, salary cap wise, Denver would have had to do something to get him on there, but I don't see the Browns getting anything other than draft. And that's all I saw the Browns trying to do. With every player that they mentioned in trade, other than Barkevius Mingo, I saw it as, Paul Kruger makes a lot of money. I mean, you'd have been talking about moving big contracts for late draft pick, day 3 picks. So it wasn't worth it for the Browns. And, quite frankly, they need players rather than draft picks because they need somebody else to figure out who's talented enough to play in this league because they haven't been able to get it done. Hey, we were talking about Wisenhunt with Tennessee. We're talking about trades. Chip Kelly, not exactly working out phenomenally in Philadelphia. If Tennessee could do like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did to trade for John Gruden from the Oakland Raiders, or do what the Patriots did to trade for Bill Belichick from the New York Jets, do you try to make a move to pair Kelly and Mariota, or do you just let that be water under the bridge if you're the Tennessee Titans?
It depends. Like I said, I think they got to get their ownership situation figured out first. But I mean, I could see something like that as a big splash move. I mean, but really, we don't know that Chip Kelly is going to work in the NFL. I mean, yes, you can give him his quarterback that he had in college, but beyond that, you still have to have other players. You can't just have one quarterback and then 21 other guys. You have to have more than one player. And regardless of if you get Chip Kelly there or not, I don't know that it's going to make much of a difference.
Well, it's an easy division to go to. I think that, he could go from one bad division to another. And, they've got some pieces there in Tennessee. I don't know if they have a defense. I don't know if Chip Kelly is capable of putting together a defense or if he needs to find the right lieutenant to take care of that for him. I don't know if Chip Kelly wants to stay in the NFL, quite frankly. I mean, there are college jobs that are open that have to be pretty intriguing to a guy like Chip Kelly, but I think that he's pretty arrogant, pretty stubborn, and I think that he refuses to fail at this level. So he'll keep at it, and he'll very likely keep at it with the Philadelphia Eagles because it's going to take his willingness to make a change in scenery to go chase down a quarterback. I think that his arrogance says, I don't need Mariota. I could do this with Sam Bradford, or I could do this with Mark Sanchez. So I don't see it happening, but it's a fun story to talk about. So what the hell? Speaking of what the hell, man, what the hell? Why aren't you subscribing to our podcast? We are at suitsandlaterals.com, available on the 4 Lights FM podcast network. You can download us on iTunes, Stitcher, and basically anywhere with an RSS feed. Every week we're back here. It's Chris Green, it's myself, Jeff Rich, occasionally Damian Bowman. We're always talking NFL. We're always talking about the subjects that nobody else is talking about. And, we want your feedback. We want you to download our show. We want you to subscribe. So make sure you get to suitsandlaterals.com or find us on iTunes or Stitcher. That's going to do it for our show this week. A lot of fun. We're always up against the clock. We always want to keep talking about more, but we're out of time here. So for Chris Green, who you can follow on Twitter at CGRN731, and myself, Jeff Rich, at ByJeffRich. That's BY Jeff Rich. Or follow the show at Suits Laterals. This has been Suits and Laterals. Have a great week, everyone.